right, joining me now to break down the weekend that was in college football and to look ahead to some best bets for the upcoming week is our guy, Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out today?
Hey, doing well, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. Okay, so let's start like we always do on your Monday appearance. What are your biggest takeaways out of the weekend?
Well, let's start. I know maybe you get tired of talking about the Heisman every week, but we have to start off with the Heisman because there was the biggest shift of the season last week. Mendoza's the favorite, so no surprise there. Even though he didn't play last week, he's now moved to a minus money favorite for the first time this year. But the big news is Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back, 40 to 1 at this point last week. Now he's as low as plus 350. What happened? He had a game where he had 8 carries. Well, he scored 3 touchdowns on those 8 carries. Mendoza on a bye. We live in an instant gratification society where, out of sight, out of mind. Diego Pavia puts up the Vanderbilt quarterback 500 plus yards, 6 touchdowns. His odds go from 25 to 1 to 5 to 1. Julian Saying's playing without his 2 top wide receivers. Media doesn't seem to like him, but right now there is a significant push now for Jeremiah Love to win the Heisman. I'll say this. I still think Mendoza, if as long as he performs well against Ohio State, he's going to be your Heisman winner. Speaking of odd shift, Ole Miss. Now, I didn't do well in the best bets last week, but one thing I did get correct is this Ole Miss to make the playoffs market. They were minus 3,500 at this point last week. I said there's no way they can be minus 3,500 with what's going on in that program. They didn't play a game last week. There were no upsets. They're now minus 600 to make the playoffs. So what's going on? Obviously, Lane Kiffin rumors, likely out, likely heading. We'll talk about in a minute where he's heading to for next season. If they lose to Mississippi State this week, and I think there's a decent chance of that happening, Ole Miss is out. And then finally, despite a best bet loser, got to bring it up. Pitt over Georgia Tech's one of the bigger surprises. I know they were only a 2.5 point underdog, but completely knocks Georgia Tech out of the ACC mix. Now we're likely heading towards a Virginia SMU ACC championship game. I'm sure everybody had that before the season.
Yeah, a lot of big storylines, betting related and otherwise, with the regular season winding down. Okay, so any big predictions for a rankings adjustment when they do get adjusted here later this week?
Yeah, I don't see many changes specifically at the top, Joe, in the top five, but I do think a couple things to keep an eye on. Speaking of Ole Miss, keep an eye on how they rank them against Oregon. Oregon got their first big win of the season over SC, the biggest game of last week. Does Oregon jump Ole Miss and then they start setting the stage for the possible Ole Miss drop if the Rebels were to lose this week? And then another one at the bottom of the poll, near the end of the at-large selections. Does Vanderbilt and Miami pass Utah? Utah should have lost last week. They gave up 500 yards rushing and still somehow won a football game. Vanderbilt had a very impressive win, got a big game against Tennessee this week. Miami's taking care of business. They got a big game against Pitt this week. Do they start setting the stage for the possibility of those two teams sneaking in? So those are two to keep an eye on, and the rankings come out Tuesday night.
Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit of a clearer picture of who's going to be playing in these conference championship games. So, conference championship betting markets, is there anything we could take advantage of there?
Yeah, I got a best bet. Mountain West.
Ooh.
I like Boise State plus 420 in that one. So if Boise State wins this weekend, and they are favored, not a big favorite, but they're about a 3.5 point road favorite against Utah State on Friday. They are likely in the Mountain West championship game, where in that game, they're likely going to be pick 'em or maybe even a slight favorite, depending on their opponent, which is likely San Diego State. They just played San Diego State. They were a 2 point road underdog. So I think the game is pick at best. So let's just do a couple simple math. Probably at least a 60% chance of winning this week. And if they make the conference championship game, 50-50 game. So times 0.6 times 0.5, 0.3. This should be 3 to 1 or even less than that. So Boise State plus 420. A lot of value there, in my opinion.
So, which team do you think has been the biggest disappointment this season? I think recency bias, a lot of people are going to say Texas, but let's not forget that Clemson was a non factor from the jump. Penn State was so bad that they fired their coach in season. So, who gets your vote as the most disappointing team of the 2025 college football season?
Yeah, Clemson and Penn State are the obvious, Joe, but you know me. Let's go down the board. I mean, maybe the casuals weren't following this, but I think, honestly, the most disappointing team in college football this year, Liberty out of Conference USA. Liberty, in case you didn't know, Liberty was a even money favorite to win the conference. Liberty's win total was 9.5. Right now, Liberty is 4-7. They're not going to a bowl game. They're a home underdog. First time they've been an underdog in conference play this season this week. So likely from a win total of 9.5 to 4, that's a bigger drop than Penn State, a bigger drop than Clemson, obviously bigger than Texas. Liberty, in my opinion, a team that was playing in the Fiesta Bowl 2 years ago, has really fallen off as a program.
Okay, let's talk Lane Kiffin, the hottest free agent, or I don't even know if you'd consider him a free agent in college football, but you know what I mean. So, reports indicate LSU prepared to offer 7-year, $90 million contract plus incentives, plus just an avalanche of money to fill out the roster. Do you expect him to end up at LSU?
I do. I'd make it at least a minus 400 favorite, at
Ooh.
least. And I'm being pretty conservative right now. Uh, Ole Miss came out with the announcement. We will announce Lane Kiffin's future after this week's game. Well, if he's staying, he just announce it right then and there. We got signing day is next Wednesday in college football. Big day. You don't want to leave out recruits, kind of out there. Oh, is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? Type of thing. So if he was staying, they would announce that he was staying. He's leaving. And LSU looks like when you get those contract specifics, you're pretty far down, I think, in the road when it comes to the talk. So he likes to move around. I mean, he's been at Ole Miss for 6 years. That's been his longest staying spot here in his coaching career. So he thinks there's more, obviously a higher upside at LSU. But if I was Lane, I'd probably stay at Ole Miss.
Florida doesn't stand a shot, you don't think?
I don't see it, Joe. I just they don't. LSU's got a little bit more upside as a program.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get into a couple best bets. Brad has two for us today. Let's start with Mississippi State plus 7.5. They're taking on Lane Kiffin's team.
Yeah, like how I tie that all together. I think there's a
Perfect.
high variance game.
Well
I
done.
don't know what the frame of mind for Ole Miss is, even though they're going for the playoffs here. It's a rivalry game. I think there's a good chance that the Lane Kiffin news breaks before this game is played. So what's going to happen in the market there? Mississippi State's going to continue to take money. We're relatively near a key number. We're at a key number here of 7.5. Let's take advantage of that. And on top of that, it's just not an anti Ole Miss play, it's a pro Mississippi State play. This is a program in the second year of a coach. They win. They're in a bowl game, which is not was expected at the start of the season. Their win total was only 3.5, so plenty to play for here for Mississippi State. And it ultimately comes down to power ratings. I made it 7, half point on a key number, plus all the speculation around Lane Kiffin. This is my favorite bet of the week: Mississippi State plus 7.5. Sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I think they're going to be live
Ooh,
here.
oh, baby. Let's go. Okay, best bet number two. We have Illinois. They're favored by 6.5 points, taking on Northwestern, and you like the favorite here.
Yeah, let's talk. Obviously, with any handicap power ratings, this is my biggest disparity of the week. The only one that's off, in my opinion, near 3 points. So take advantage of that. We're laying the 6.5 with Illinois. I made it closer to 10. So why am I off? Well, it's just a simple buy low, sell high. We're selling Northwestern after back to back to the wire. Games decided on the final play of the game. They got the ball eligibility with a nice big come from behind win against Minnesota last week. We are buying Illinois low after their upset loss as a touchdown plus favorite last week against Wisconsin. Rivalry game. Both teams should be plenty motivated. I just think Illinois needs it more. They're the fresher team. Illinois minus 6.5.
Okay, we will leave it at that for today. But Brad's going to be with us two more times this week in his traditional Thursday spot with Jake Biden. We're going to be doing a Black Friday football betting special, tying together the college football Black Friday games and the NFL Black Friday game, Bears versus Eagles. And that's an interesting game all of a sudden. Okay, Brad, thank you very much for joining. We'll catch you for the Black Friday special later on in the week.
Look forward to it, Joe. Take care.